Right, welcome to tonight's Board of Health meeting. First item on the agenda is, we got a couple, plans to review. The first one is 26 Maple Street.
All right, Tom Ryder, who's the town engineer, has reviewed the plans and he has given me a letter for the Board of Health's. The applicant is requesting a local upgrade. Title V requires that a soil absorption system has at least a 4-foot offset to the estimated seasonal high groundwater table. A 3-foot offset is allowed for repairs with a local upgrade approval for a conventional soil absorption system. As this is a repair and the site limitations create constraints to upgrade Title V to new construction standards, Tom Ryder is recommending the approval of the Title V local upgrade for the property at 26 Maple Street.
All right, I know this property, it was a cesspool. I'm willing, if I remember correctly, and, the water table is pretty high there. It's right behind the, senior housing. This is,
Yeah, the former deli home.
yeah, this is Russell's house. Yeah.
No, they had a septic system.
Oh, they did?
Well, the plan shows a septic tank
Right
and an
there,
old
right here.
leach field.
I thought that's the new one.
It is.
Well,
Right.
they're showing.
Yeah, it does say existing.
Yeah, they're showing what appears to be the existing. And then the new one kind of more,
Right.
Right, okay. When I saw that, because I didn't have my glasses, I thought that was the new tank. Because I know where the cover was for the old cesspool.
Right.
right.
So that's what happens when you make an assumption and you don't wear your glasses. So pretty standard.
Well, I just had a question on if I'm reading it right. The scale looks like it's 1 inch is 20 feet. Am I reading that correctly or am I misunderstanding?
For the scale.
Where are you seeing that?
At the very bottom,
I'm looking, yeah,
Um,
I'm looking at the bottom.
The other side, I
this
think.
graphic scale down below, very bottom of the.
Over here, graphic scale, yeah,
Oh.
1 inch
For the
equals
measurement.
20 feet, yeah.
So theoretically, then if I'm using a tape, calculate footage like a tape measure, 1 inch should be 20 feet.
Correct.
Mhm.
So if you do that, that doesn't seem to quite jive with what's laid out there. I don't believe. In terms of what they're saying is the 100-foot buffer zone.
I'm looking at the radiuses. So you're talking about distance to
Well, the
wells.
well is way down here.
Right,
Well,
it-
what I'm getting at is, if that scale is right,
Yeah,
if 1 inch is supposed to equal 20 feet,
yeah,
if you actually take a tape measure
yeah.
and you do measurement, it looks like it's, may not be
I should have
quite,
brought my scale thing. I didn't.
Okay, but you're saying distance to the, from the well. That's what you're measuring.
well, distance to, just distances in general.
Okay.
Because it was kind of confusing because up the top,
I wonder if when it was reproduced, it threw the scale off when it was printed on this small piece.
which is possible. Because if you look at the
Because
top,
usually the plans are,
well,
Well, look, let's do the 122.
be.
Let's do it.
maybe this is just a
Uh,
smaller version of what.
that's what I'm thinking.
Let's
at it.
do
Okay.
that. Let's do that 122 right there, the back property line. Do that with your ruler.
Yeah,
See what that equals.
from,
Back
From
line,
a wall?
just measure the line.
No, just the property line itself.
Yeah.
going by this scale.
Yeah.
By
It
your
says,
ruler.
it's 122 feet, so that should
Right.
be 6 inches, just a little over.
Yeah, so see that's
Well, from that point to that point, I have,
from corner
Not
to
quite.
corner. You're doing from corner to corner, right?
yeah, from where the lines are, the property lines that go this way.
Yeah,
So on a tape measure, it's actually less than 3 inches.
right. So this scale is not correct for this right.
That's what I'm trying to
That's
ascertain here. So the
Right.
scale that they're telling
I'm
us on
I'm
this.
wondering again,
Right,
when they
no, I
reproduce
think
this
it has
so
to
that
do
they
with
could
the
send it
size of
to
the
us
paper.
electronically.
Yeah, I think it has to do with the paper.
Got it.
uh,
Okay.
With the,
That was
you know,
thrown
the words are so little too, you can barely read the whole thing, so,
Because if you look at the actual measurement at the top right,
right,
for like distances between foundation, tank,
Yeah,
right.
and the new, that seems to be more in line with what that buffer zone is that's defined. I was just a little confused as to, so we're thinking that maybe this is just was a
I
reduced
think you
print.
need to, I think you need to see the regular
Actual
septic
plan.
system.
I got
plan.
it. Okay.
right. You take that full print and then now
Right.
you will
That's what it would be based
electronically
on.
transfer it
Right,
onto a small piece of paper.
That
Right.
loses that,
You probably,
that really
Right.
doesn't become effective anymore.
right.
right,
Yeah,
Got it. Okay.
okay. So with that said, pretty standard, straightforward,
Yep.
yeah.
routine local upgrade. We need a motion.
I make the motion, that we accept the application for local upgrade approval for 26 Maple Street.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
This is even gonna be worse. Right.
Say again.
I said, this one's even gonna be worse for you.
Actually, I think that one turned out to be better. No, I did have more questions.
All right, so the next item on the agenda is 48 Uxbridge Road.
The applicant is requesting variance approval for the proposed tight tank repair for the above referenced property. Title V requires that the septic system components have at least a 50 feet offset to the property line. Less than 40 feet requires demonstration of no alternatives and notification to the abutter. As this is a repair and the site limitations such as the private wells and wetland resources, Tom is recommending the local upgrade request per the plan submitted by L Engineering and Associates. A notification to the abutter is required at least 10 days prior to the Board of Health meeting.
I hate to say, but it's gotta be a tremendous amount better than what was there.
Oh, absolutely. I agree.
I know
Well,
that, I mean,
especially
that
when it's on
doesn't sound
the-
like, you know. But,
It is a solution.
correct.
Okay, so abutters have been notified?
Yes.
That's good. This was distance to.
Yeah, it's 40 some odd feet.
So not
Right.
terrible. Just under the 50 foot.
What confirmation do we have? that
40.4.
The abutters were notified, Jack?
The neighbor, they're both cousins, 46 and 48, they're cousins.
Yeah.
So the 46 neighbor and 48 neighbor have an agreement that they were notified. And that was from Mark Allen from engineering.
Okay, is that a verbal or is that a written?
We're waiting on the written, but it was written email, but Tom says once we get the email from the abutter, it's good to go.
Okay. Because I couldn't understand on the form on page 4, it was not that box wasn't checked for a list of abutters affected. I didn't know why.
And Tom just specifically asked for number 46 and 48 to be notified.
No, what I'm getting at is I would have thought that on the form, when the application was filled out, that box would have been Xed out.
Oh, makes sense to me. I agree.
Yes, no, I
I
might.
agree.
Right, yeah.
So it just raised the question in my mind, were there no affected abutters? But based on Tom's letter, there are.
Just that one.
Well, one or 5, it doesn't matter. There is an affected abutter.
Yes,
That's my point. Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Right, but the abutter is right there in that house and sees what's happening and knows what's going on. And,
No, I understand, but there's
Right.
there's a process.
yeah, I.
So
get the
that's why I
problem.
asked about
Right.
the written, because
Right.
if it's just about, hey, Jack, I'm gonna be doing this. Yeah, okay, no worries.
Yeah,
And there's nothing in writing
correct.
that doesn't.
Right.
We can't accept that.
Fly, yeah, right.
Tom requested that it be in
You know what
writing.
I'm saying?
Yes,
So
It should come
before
before we can.
the permit is issued.
yes,
Right.
we're waiting on that.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
Approval.
So can I make a motion that once the abutters information is, the abutter is notified
Mhm.
that we pass the
Well, before we make the motion, I still had a couple of questions.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. On the plan, this plan,
Yeah,
uh, it talked about the 310 CMR guidelines. Kind of in the middle, right side of the plan. This is what we need magnifying glasses.
Yeah, well, he's
uh,
not strong enough.
So,
where are you? Just give me a hint where you are.
yeah, this little section.
On the
right
map.
On the far side.
here. Yeah,
Oh, on that side. Okay, yeah, all right.
Oh, yeah, right at the top.
yeah, so it
Fortunately,
kind of looks like it's an outline, I guess, when it comes to tight tanks being installed.
Right,
Kind of listing the C10, 310 CMR guidelines.
right.
So I just had a question about number F, the letter F. An operation and maintenance plan acceptable to the approving authority shall be implemented, which requires monitoring of the system to ensure proper operation and maintenance.
Yeah, I'm gonna assume that's the contract they have to have with someone to, service the tank,
Right.
to empty the tank.
Is that true or you?
Yeah,
That's it, okay.
that would be my understanding of F.
So,
Right.
Because everybody on the lake that has a tight tank is supposed to have a contract. And I believe they're supposed to list that for us.
That I do not know.
so the BOH should the BOH, maybe, should have a copy of that?
It should be in the file, yeah. It should be in.
So do we have a copy of this plan?
Not to my knowledge.
Well,
Of
maybe
this-
not for this site, but if you were to go to another property on the lake that has a tight tank, there should be a copy of a contractual
Mhm.
agreement with a hauler, because some may need to be emptied monthly, depending, some may have to be every 6 weeks. So they're supposed to have someone on the hook,
Mhm.
because you just can't wait for the alarm to go off.
it's in
Yeah,
your-
I mean,
Yes.
You have some room.
Right.
I mean,
But
when
it's
the
not
alarm goes,
contingent upon you approving the plan, if that's what you're concerned about. It's not contingent. You don't have to have that agreement in order to approve the plan. It's after.
Because
the
it comes
fact.
after the fact.
Right.
So that would come to us, or should be coming to us afterwards.
I remember some discussion, especially with the Lake Nipmuc Task Force,
Right,
that was a requirement. And it's an actual agreement.
Yes.
It's a contract.
Right.
I don't know if it runs every 12 months or if it's a 24-month. I don't know what the term of the contract is.
Right.
But if you have a tight tank, you're supposed to have a contract with a licensed hauler from Mendon.
Yeah.
That is gonna service and maintain that tank essentially,
Right.
because they're the ones that are regularly gonna be showing up to empty that tank.
So I raise it as a discussion point for Jack's edification too, as you're kind of getting these plans and you're working with tight tanks and whatnot, what to be looking for in addition to the other paperwork. But we should be seeing operation and maintenance plans coming through for the BOH for a tight tank. Tight tank locations, right?
Okay.
Yeah, and actually, when you're in the office, pull an address off of Kinsley Lane or Ave,
Yeah.
or, Uxbridge Road. Someone that has a tight tank, and see if the paperwork is in there. There should be. I mean, like I said, I didn't
Right.
realize there was a contract until we started talking about the task force.
right.
That's when I became aware that it's not just a matter of them calling somebody whenever they need it emptied. Whoever answers is who empties the tank. It's a contract of a form
Right.
of a contract.
Right.
And part of the reason I raise it is because of the sensitivity that I think it should be existing now with regard to the lake
Right,
and making sure that the people who are doing things that
Exactly.
fall under the BOH
right,
auspices are doing the things they need to do.
right.
That's,
Yeah, pull a couple addresses and see
I'll do
what you
that.
find.
Yeah.
And then, let us know. And, we'll make sure that if something's slipping through the cracks, that we plug the hole quick.
yeah,
Like I said, wasn't even aware of such a contract until we started talking about the lake over the last few years.
Yep.
And, Missy was doing the mapping and you upgraded it as to who has what. But I mean, obviously that's a location with the probably the largest amount of tight tanks, so let's check our files. Good, good
Yeah.
catch.
Yeah.
You know, we may be missing some paperwork. We know that we found that occasionally.
When we talked at the last task force meeting, we talked about making sure that anybody that had a tight tank is getting pumped and we see it and we,
Right, we
you know,
get the
we
slips.
make sure that we getting the, who's doing it,
Mhm.
when they do it, and how often.
Yeah, pull like 3 addresses
I'll do that.
and see what we have in the files, just to make sure that we're not missing anything or someone's not submitting stuff that they're supposed to. And then we can talk about it at the next meeting and
Yeah.
see, what kind of accuracy we have.
And then the last thing I would ask, and I'm not sure, I'm not the best at these plans. Does it appear that this tight tank is going below groundwater?
I would think not, because it would be, it's on the upside of the lake.
Trying to, you might know, would you?
I didn't see, I didn't look at them.
How are you with these plans?
I can read them.
Well, I know that there are tanks that end up in the water because they have to make sure that they don't float.
Hmm. Yeah, Steve Donatello's telling me a
Right.
story about a septic tank that was floating. I'm like,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's really problematic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
You're like,
remember
"Oh
AJ
my
talking about
God."
the different grades of
Right.
tanks. Because they can become buoyant. And a lot of times they may be in groundwater or partially in groundwater,
Right,
and you don't want them to float. So there's different grades of tanks as to the thickness of the walls, et cetera, so that there's more weight to the empty tank
Right.
than the standard tank.
So-
There's also tanks that you can drive over.
Mhm.
I thought was H20s, maybe. Tanks that you can drive over, because we have had plans where the tank ends up in the driveway.
yep, so you need
That's the only
something
place
that's
to
gonna
put it.
endure poundage.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So, I'd have to see what. is our
But it
ground-
says here too, though, that if it was in fact installed below groundwater, the groundwater table, that there would be buoyancy calculations. I don't see any on this.
Trying to see what elevation groundwater is.
I mean, I'm guessing at all the particulars. I'm assuming Tom would have picked up.
Oh, here they are, right here. Now that you
Yeah, we
can
got
see them,
high
yeah,
water Maintenance, so on,
you're right. So there's buoyancy calculations right there.
2 flows.
So there's a portion of it that is going
Yep.
below, okay,
Yeah, there
Yep.
must be.
Yeah, because the buoyancy calcs are right there.
okay.
There you go.
Just a
Multiple sets of eyes.
question of curiosity.
And that's why they're called a tight tank too. So that, the water doesn't leak in and the septic doesn't leak out.
That word tight's a good name to have for a tank, so why
Right.
don't we
I
get
mean,
it out?
I wasn't being, if I wasn't being facetious, I was just
Hmm?
Right.
saying that, they're designed for that kind of a situation.
Yeah, nothing gets in or, yeah, nothing gets out.
All right. That's, the end of the discussion, and we're doing this based on Tom Ryder's recommendation. So make a motion.
I think Joyce did, but and I'll second the motion.
Okay.
I interrupted.
That's okay.
It's all right.
Better interrupt before the vote
Yeah.
than after, right?
Hey, you know,
Then we have to start erasing.
could always undo it.
Okay, so all in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye.
I was glad to see this. Job,
That was Tom's request.
good job, Tom.
Well, it was kind of in response to Michael's belief that very difficult to be getting rid of waste from the town of Mendon. And so
Yes.
just to, you know,
Right.
give them a little
Right.
understanding
And
and
I love the business that you were talking about. We haven't got to that yet, I guess, so, wait, sorry,
That's okay.
sorry.
All right, so, do we want to have a discussion
I think it's warranted.
on item 2 and not pass over it? Where
Sure.
Mr. Marchand and his attorney weren't able to attend because they haven't got their Blackstone paperwork complete?
well, to that particular statement of reason, I don't know where you may or may not come into the picture, given that it's Blackstone.
Mhm.
Have you been interacting with him since?
It
the
was
last
on the board's agenda, for last night and it was discussed. And, Mr. Marchand, the, company, the third party company that he was gonna use is not a licensed hauler in Blackstone, so that ended the conversation for the Board of Health. Also, Jack and I made a generic inquiry to the, section chief at the DEP and specifically asked, and I believe you guys
Yes.
have it
Yes.
in front of you, so we
Yeah.
specifically asked if in fact you can use a third party. And the section chief came back with her response, Mary Mary Beth Chubb, excuse me, and, the long and short of it is the answer is no.
Yeah.
And she quotes, the sections that she relied upon for her response with regards to transportation and that the permit, when issued to a hauler, that hauler should also be bringing it to the licensed facility and not using a third party.
And the other thing that I thought was very interesting is that if you're going through a town with your hauling,
Oh,
you
absolutely,
have to have a permit in that town.
absolutely.
And I mean, I didn't even think that that would be,
I wasn't 100% clear on that.
yeah.
It's like I heard
Yeah.
it spoke before,
Yep.
Yeah,
and it made sense to me in the fact that
if something
if there was a
happened,
spill,
Correct.
accident,
that's exactly right, yeah.
Mhm.
Well, that's why I started thinking, I thought, oh, yeah, well, that makes sense.
Mhm.
but on the other hand, it did seem a little restrictive, only because if you have a haul up from Mendon
Douglas.
that's hauling to West Bridgewater, you go through a lot of towns.
Mhm.
Now, like I mentioned the night that Mr. Marchand and his attorney were here, I see a lot of the local guys going right down the street here to Oakdale.
Mhm.
And I know that they go to Uxbridge.
Right,
So there really isn't a need, even though we were sort of led to believe there may be a need
He indicated, but,
to go to West Bridgewater.
well, he made reference, I think, specifically to Milford. That Milford wouldn't take our waste. And made us, and I don't know if Milford has, it wasn't even aware Milford even had a
Waste treatment facility?
waste.
Well, they
treatment.
do,
Okay,
yeah,
so, but making you believe that it's because it's waste from Mendon,
right.
not necessarily have anything to do with the fact that he probably isn't even licensed in Milford.
correct.
Unfortunately,
So that's why I wanted to I gave him the benefit of the doubt.
no.
But it's all really a moot point based upon
Right.
Ms.
Okay.
Chubb's
This was
response.
forwarded to his attorney, right?
It was, we were gonna have probably tonight. If they were.
Okay.
And have you
Do you
guys
perhaps
discuss
think that
it?
His attorney would have checked in that area himself, by the way. I mean, he would have gone there and said. So, I'm
So
thinking,
Maybe didn't
Well,
wanna-
we still had the one piece that was a variable that we just kind of talked about before the meeting was the transfer piece between trucks.
no, they said,
Well, Alan became aware, I'll let him.
Yeah, I asked, I happened to run into Lenny on Pine Street in Milford because I was working there and he was driving up the street. So I asked him the question. And he told me that if you were in your yard,
Yep,
your shop yard.
Yep.
Your business yard, and you were transferring it from one vehicle to another, As long as you put pads down, you could do that. However, that also, without him saying it, that's the same company transferring it from one truck to another. So in
Right.
other words, you have a 3,000 gallon truck that you do your route with, and you have a 8,000 gallon tanker that you put it in and drive it to the facility where you empty it.
Right,
Now, he didn't say those words, but when you think about it, and when you read this response, that might be the only allowable situation. In Mr. Marchand's case, it's a third party. And we don't know if either of them, well, we know one of them definitely isn't licensed in the town in which this transfer is gonna take place.
Mhm.
So I'm not gonna say that Lenny's answer was incorrect, but there's probably some stipulations that we didn't discuss as far as ownership and who's licensed and third parties and things like that, especially when you read this,
Mhm.
where it's a flat out no.
Mhm.
Well, I take her response as a flat out no to the third party. And I think the way she was taking it was, you know, how it was presented. It's somebody else stepping in for Michael to pick up his septage and take it somewhere. I think that's what she's saying no to.
Yeah. I mean,
Right, that was the specific
That was
question,
specific
excuse me, it
question.
was,
Yeah.
was a third party.
About
We didn't
specific-
talk about,
Okay,
you know,
so-
whether, you know, Joe's Septic Service has, you know, small trucks and fills up his big tanker on his property, like Lenny said, which is common. And then they wait for that to be filled, and then they bring in, especially if they don't have local wastewater treatment facilities that they can bring their waste to.
Right, so they're trying to increase their efficiency on the
Right.
trucking side. Yeah, I see Wind River with a whole bunch of like 3,000 gallon trucks
Yep.
on the road. And then they have an 8,000 gallon tanker. They may have even more
Mhm.
because I see them on the road. I see them
Yep.
pulling into Hopedale and pulling out. It's not the smaller trucks that are pulling out of there. And they're a, good sized company. They
well, that
cover a
makes
lot of
a sense in the efficiency and,
Right, and as long as that particular storage tank has to be on wheels, it can't be a
Sitting,
permanent,
yeah.
yeah, it can't be sitting, it has to be on wheels. That was made clear when we were speaking with,
Stephen.
Steve, yep.
Okay, so. What do we do about Mr. Marsha?
well, we
Because
got a
regardless of-
letter here from his attorney in this package.
saying that they couldn't be able to make it.
Right, and they weren't able to meet the standards or
Regular.
something, so that they would get back to us, did you?
But in the meantime, Mr. Marshon has been operating in town without a license.
In our town still? The little
Well,
Dickens?
we gave him. a
30 days.
Additional 30 days only to service the portalets down at the soccer field, because we didn't think it was fair to pull the rug out from the soccer program.
Mhm.
All right, we support our youth.
And that
Uh,
30 days, though, was contingent upon receiving certain information that Jack never received.
Right,
So
So-
technically, they never were given approval. Because you'll get the 30 days if you do this. They didn't do that. They didn't get the 30 days.
right, so we made that opportunity, they couldn't take advantage of it, to make it 100% clear.
Yeah.
So we know he's still got portalets down there. We can't let him operate without a license.
Mhm.
It's not fair to all the guys that
Mhm.
play by the rules and do what they're supposed to do.
So how about if we send Ernie Horn a letter telling him that he is not following through with what he's supposed to do, and he can no longer do that
That's fine.
instead of,
And I
Trying
think
to
we should
deal-
also notify the soccer program.
I'll do that tomorrow morning.
instead of dealing with Marchand and have him say, okay, yeah, I'll do that, yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, really, just give them, to Tom's point, the 30 days was contingent upon, further action by them. And there has been no further action, so that's now off the table, so he's operating really without a license, so a cease and desist.
As he has been
Yep,
all year.
Right.
but now,
I mean, unfortunately, it's a problem
mhm,
that we can't allow to continue anymore. Lawyer, no lawyer, whatever. I mean, it's wrong.
mhm.
Did we already once send him a cease and desist?
We've sent him a few cease and desists unclaimed.
You remember he wasn't,
Yeah.
that
he wasn't,
Number-
Where were you sending those?
he wasn't picking.
I'm talking to the public.
Yeah, he wasn't.
Correct.
picking.
Yeah, but you know, can send, now that we know he's represented by counsel, now you notify his counsel.
Right.
I'm sure his counsel will.
Well, and the other thing we probably need to do, is kind of follow the footsteps of the town of Uxbridge and let the police department. They see him in town.
It's
Even
an
driving
it's an
through town.
unauthorized vehicle.
He doesn't belong even driving on the streets of Mendon.
Yep.
I hate to be that way.
Well,
But-
right is right, though. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, you know. And if there's anybody else, well, he wasn't supposed to be servicing anybody else
Well, I think we know there's
on
other.
the septic
entities.
side, right? We know.
right. yeah.
Trash side is different.
Different,
Right.
it's different.
So we have to make sure that we explain that to the police department.
Hmm.
Because they shouldn't be pulling over his trash truck,
It's true.
Right,
right?
Yeah.
Which makes it a little harder for them. But other than that, I mean, I don't know what other instrument we have to keep his septic trucks and his, portalets out of town.
We don't have toilet police.
So let me
It's a
go,
crappy job.
The crappy job.
let me go back to the, trash hauling. Does he have a permit to?
He is licensed to trash haul. He has all proper paperwork for trash hauling.
Okay, thank you. Just making sure.
All right, so, how do we want to send that letter to Attorney Horn? Do we need to go to the level of certified return receipt guaranteed?
I would say,
Or, I mean, I'm
by email as
I'm not
well. I
worried
mean,
about,
he's been responsive.
yeah,
Attorney Hunt's been
Ernie's not that kind
responsive.
of guy,
Right.
but what do we need to do?
Well, I mean,
I can send the letter certified, but whatever the letter the board decides on, I will PDF and send an email like, here's a electronic copy, expect a certified copy in the mail.
should it just
Ernie
be,
Horn.
should it just be going to Ernie or should it also be going directly to Michael?
Well, he's represented by counsel, so,
Past history, I think you should save the $8 and,
yeah, I mean,
Well, and we've had bad luck with him picking stuff up.
yeah,
Right.
but
He
now
just
that we
blows
know
it
he's
up.
represented by counsel,
Right.
you really should not be engaging with him.
oh, with his client.
Right,
Okay.
Right.
Point.
because, you know, he
Right.
just
Yeah.
said this.
Okay,
We should be going through Attorney Horn.
sounds good to me.
Right.
So
I agree.
we'll send them an email stating that he is not to operate on the septic side of his business in the town of Mendon. And
Maybe.
certified, or do we do it just email? Can you do a return receipt? email?
Yes, but they don't have to respond to it. Like, they could read an email, like, the person sending this requires a response, you want to reply, and you can say yes or no.
Yeah, you don't have to.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're
I
not-
do
I can get a delivery receipt, but a red receipt is a yes or no on the other.
So we'll do both.
I'll send both.
Yeah,
Maybe make them aware that, we sent a generic inquiry to the DEP because when none of us, we're experienced
Yeah,
with third party arrangements.
Just forward that.
Yeah, I will forward
Yeah.
that. to 'em.
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly the way it is. Tom, you're thinking the wheels are turning.
Well, it's just thinking it's kind of a shame that all we could do is send another letter.
Well, the other thing you could do is you could go down and hand it to him in person and say, look, bud. But,
Well,
the thing of it is, you sent a letter, he didn't respond. So now you're working with his attorney. Fortunately, he brought his attorney.
is there any angle from the standpoint of the customer? Meaning the soccer folks, NEFC, that we could notify without crossing a line per se.
That and,
Oh, we are gonna notify.
Yeah, we are gonna notify them.
right,
Because
So,
essentially, they, just like anybody else that's using a hauler that's not licensed in the town of
Right.
Mendon, we have to make them aware
right,
that they're using a hauler that is not licensed in the town of Mendon and they need to change.
And they're prepared to do that.
They are prepared to do that.
Jack.
so as part of that, then the answer is probably no, but is there any actionable element that we could put to them? Say, because these are illegally positioned on your property, they need to be removed.
I think I think stating that would be enough.
Mhm. They'll see to it. They'll see
yeah.
to it.
I mean, we have no reason to believe that the customer is the problem,
Oh, no, absolutely not.
you know? And I mean, we extended ourselves with an offer
Yeah.
to try to,
Mhm.
without even having a discussion with the customer, to try to have continuous service for them. And we're getting nowhere with the hauler.
right.
Which maybe we want to incorporate in the letter to NEFC, to Brian, that we did go to that extra length as part of this process.
Right.
You know, so he's aware that
Yeah,
BOH is
It
taking.
wasn't just something that just happened yesterday.
Yeah, just something.
And
that-
we're acting on it tomorrow.
What do you think?
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
I
that's fine.
definitely think so,
Yep.
yeah.
I don't think we're gonna have any issue. on
With
that
Brian,
end,
I don't think so, yeah.
You know, and I'm certainly not trying to hurt the hauler by him losing the account, but
He's hurting
he's,
himself.
he's been running in town all year.
What was that?
He's hurting himself.
He's hurting himself, correct. Yeah.
I mean, I can see why towns just say, nope. Don't operate in our town.
Ever. I don't
Period.
care if you have a license or
You're done.
not, yes,
I mean, there's a number of towns that have done that,
correct, yeah.
Well, there are.
you know, I
Yeah.
mean. How long do we allow this to go on?
Well, it's hard, it's hard to know, and
Well, the bell's been rung.
that's right, no,
Numerous times. I mean, we've been
right,
misled. From
Right.
way back when, he came in and told us that he was gonna be in the background and he brought his attorney and his son with him at that time. And we tried to give him the benefit of a doubt. You know, that the new generation was gonna fly right.
Yeah, they
Well,
see
it's,
right
again, this
into
isn't
it.
on the new generation. It's the it's not the young one that's at issue here. 'Cause he's running the trash program. Right?
Uh,
Supposed
well,
to be running the company.
Combined. I just got the impression, I thought there was, I thought there was.
Oh, it sounded to me as though
He was the boss.
Junior was the one that went after the soccer account for the Portalettes.
Oh, okay, I didn't know.
I mean, that's the way I heard it.
Okay,
My hearing isn't
nope,
real
Right.
good, but that was definitely the impression I got,
okay.
because we asked that question, who's running the company? Where is he, right? And then we wanted all three to appear tonight.
Right.
Done.
All right, so we know we have an action plan, right?
Yes, we do.
All right, so they're not taking action, I guess we have to.
In this case, the pen we think might be mightier than the sword. I don't know.
I mean,
I haven't seen the sword yet.
we'll see what kind of a response we get,
Mhm.
but, I mean,
Hey, you can only do so much. I mean, we've done every single thing. We've been accommodating, giving time to, that's not our job. Our job is to see it done right.
well, it's not fair to the other
regardless.
people that,
That's right, who are doing it right. for
You
one
know,
thing.
Especially in light of, Section Chief Chubb, in her opinion, so
Right,
no, good job
which
reaching
I
out.
love that.
even if they provided the documentation that the board had requested in light of this.
Right.
It's really, that's all moot now.
Correct. Yep, when I saw that, I said, woo-hoo,
Unfortunately,
Sorta.
there's a pattern here.
loud.
Mm.
Yes.
But we have this to rely upon as far as, you know, for the board, as far as the
Yeah.
board's current actions.
Right,
You have this to rely upon.
Yeah.
Okay. So
it's not our fault.
we'll move forward in that manner
Mhm.
at this time. Letter to E.L. Harvey from the Board of Health.
All right, so Tom has drafted an email and both you and Joyce have reviewed it and we're good to go. I did mail it out on Monday, October 3rd. And when I came in on Tuesday of this week, Mike Sespan sent us a copy of the E.L. Harvey contract.
Maybe the pen is mightier than the sword.
Yeah, but the truck's still breaking down.
The truck is no breaking.
Well, the truck, the oil truck, the truck that was leaking hydraulic fluid
Mhm.
is not on the road today.
Oh,
Mhm.
It's a different truck. It's not a side hauler, but it's a different truck. And the other, the old truck is in the service area
so when you said there's a new truck today,
going around.
is that the one?
Yeah, it's the one with the two guys.
Yep, two
But it was
guys.
broken down?
No, the new one is fine.
All right.
But my daughter said she saw Phil's truck, the one that had the hydraulic leak that was
Oh.
repaired, being towed today.
Today?
Yes.
Oh, because my understanding was that it had gone into the
Repair shop?
repair shop,
That's what I was told. There was one into Monday night.
right?
Well, it sounds like it was on the road this morning, but for a very short period of time. On its own power.
Wow,
Yeah, it was Wesley
worked in
Drive,
mysterious
Megan
ways.
Court, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I got picked up today.
It was hooked.
with Phil's truck?
Well, I don't know. See, I was kind of hoping to catch.
Yeah, I saw
I missed it.
the
Yeah.
new truck with the two operators, because one guy was doing trash, one guy was doing
Right.
recycling,
Right,
and every time they had to get in and out of the
that
truck.
truck, right, because
So
it was this.
probably took
Right.
forever.
Yeah.
Well, no, they were really pretty good because when they came by my house after doing all Northbridge Road and all of that area, that was under the time then Phil would be there because Phil would stop across the street, diagonally across the street from me and like have his lunch for a few minutes and do that, so.
Yeah, no, they were 2 hours behind picking me up,
Oh.
because I almost gave you a call just in case you were getting complaints.
All right.
And I says, no, I'm gonna breathe. Everything's okay.
Mhm.
And then I saw the truck and I go, oh, that's a shiny, nice truck.
It was, yeah, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but, obviously not the ideal truck to be using.
for
if you-
those toters,
Combination, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Question, do you recall if the truck that Phil currently drives or has been driving with the had that actually been put into service in the previous contract?
I believe so,
They just weren't using the arm.
right, because that was the
Yeah,
first time we went with E.L. Hobby, right?
Yeah.
We left Republic.
Yep.
We went with E.L. Hobby and that truck was brand new.
And
To
so
my
it was already
knowledge.
equipped with automation
Yes,
with the arm. It just
Right.
wasn't being used because of the structure of our program.
right.
right.
That's
And in
the-
some cases, Phil was using the arm because people had toters.
Mhm.
Okay,
And I swear that's how my round trash cans took a
Got by,
beating,
yeah.
okay.
Yep,
because they're not rigid enough.
To stand.
So you're
yeah, you
trying
have to
to,
have that metal
right, you're
brace
trying to
around the top.
squeeze them just right.
Yeah, yeah.
And I've seen guys in Milford. Now they have a similar arm, but they also have a bin in front of them.
Mhm.
Yeah,
All the
Okay,
best are in front of the driver.
Right.
Yes.
That's what Bellingham
And
has.
the arm is in front too. And I've seen those guys pick up regular trash cans. I mean,
Yep.
they're good. You can tell these guys grew up on video games.
Hmm.
Because they're really
Yeah.
good. They can pick up amazing things and get them in that front bin. And then that front bin lifts up
Yep.
and loads the truck.
Yep.
so that being the case, then that gives you an idea how old that truck is.
Yeah,
What
I'm
did they say,
thinking
7 years?
6, 7 years.
7
It's
years.
gotta be close to its life. If I remember
Close to its life.
correctly. That was about the life expectancy.
It sounds like it's on life support now.
Yeah,
Well, it's the last, 18 months? Between, the floor leaking glass on the road and
Mhm.
leaks and the regen system not working right. It's, I mean, Phil keeps the truck nice, but
But
ours
it
is
was
ours.
driving him crazy though.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
He
especially
told-
where he goes to do the route, and then he's gotta go back to the shop for 3 hours.
He
Right.
told me, that, that nobody's listening. But
Yeah,
now they must be.
I hope so.
Well, the squeaky wheel always gets the grease.
Yeah.
That's where the residents came into play with making calls and reporting the problems.
Yeah, and they'll get sick and tired of coming out, and, you tell them to have some speedy dry with them to put it down on the road, for the hydraulic fluid. You see how quickly it ends up in the repair shop.
Yeah, that was we were having a discussion yesterday about that. And
Mm.
she brought up, what a great idea. We should have made that call and said, hey, bring some speedy dry out. You gotta
Yep.
soak up all this hydraulic fluid.
And then it ends up in the garage real quick, because they don't want to have to keep on sending down a supervisor.
Well, even today, to send another truck with 2 guys costs money.
Yep.
I mean, and it's not as efficient. So,
Injury is more prone to
yeah,
injuries.
all day long,
Mhm.
you're in the red.
Yep.
So that truck either needs to be fixed once and for all, or it
Right.
needs to be replaced.
Right.
Plain and simple. I mean, they know how much time they have left on this contract. The truck's not gonna make it.
Right.
Well, and like you said before, too, the hours on the truck, you can't change it.
Right, it's not on a piece of equipment like that, it has nothing to do with mileage.
Mm-mm.
It's the hours on the
Yep.
vehicle.
Well, and because too, the pricing of the new contract reflected what they're facing and the pricing of new trucks now versus just 5 years ago. So you hate to think that they're trying to just put Band-Aids on these things to save a
Get away
penny
To get
Yeah.
through the, yeah.
without having to pay the pound
Yeah.
for the replacement
The
vehicles.
clips and bubble gum.
But it could be too, and I don't know, maybe you know better, in the transportation industry. Some areas are still facing production problems.
Well, Mac just went on strike. I think they resolved it. And I'm pretty sure that truck is a Mac,
Okay,
but Mac joined the United Auto Workers. But I have a feeling, I thought I heard a clip where maybe they resolved their issue and they're back to work, but I mean, that does affect
right.
things. I was telling Jack that I read that the town of Hopedale is looking at a new tanker
Mhm.
and they have a chance to buy one. I'll call it a demo, but that's not the word they used. Because there aren't a lot of them out and a new one's $1 million.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
So the one that they're looking at is like, they can get discounted for $770,000.
Hmm.
So, I mean, I'm sure that piece of equipment costs what we've been told.
Right. Well, I said $500,000.
$400,000 at one point.
Yeah.
And it's very possible, as you said, with production issues, that there might not be that many available. So that makes it a little harder to,
Mhm.
and I mean, E.L. Harvey has bought a ton of equipment because they've grown so much in the last 5 years. Forget about the fact that they were bought by another company.
Yeah.
So that can create some problems.
Well, I believe when we were investigating a few months ago, kind of doing some feelers out to other companies
Yes.
that may not. One of the companies came back and said they'd love to entertain servicing the town, but they weren't prepared to because they weren't prepared for infrastructure, meaning vehicle wise. But looking at, next year, that would be something they would entertain. They just weren't prepared to step in this cycle.
Well, we're pretty much locked in for 3, right?
Well, we have a contract.
Right.
Well, we actually don't have a signed contract. We have a contract that's now been presented. That is in the hands of council.
I was gonna ask that.
Yeah,
question.
look,
Council does have it.
So Karis had it.
Yeah.
We haven't signed it.
Right.
What we have in place is we have this addendum. whatever you
Mhm.
wanna call it,
Correct.
Yeah.
right?
Pretty
That
common.
was believed to be sufficient enough to exercise a
That's-
relationship
Yep.
between the two parties, right? The town of Mendon and E.L. Harvey. However, that's contingent upon proper service.
Correct.
What, are you giving us what we're paying for. What would you know, what we should be getting. So there are, even though you have a contract, there are reasons, things that can come along that are reasons to get out of that contract.
Correct.
That would be one of them.
Well, both sides. I mean, like if we
Both
weren't
sides.
paying,
And if we weren't
they
paying,
would have the right to back up.
yeah, absolutely, correct. Yeah, absolutely. So. I hope these little hiccups are just short-lived. You know, I did like your word observations. That's a good word to use.
Well, I mean, kind of hard to miss it. I mean, obviously someone, sees fluid leaking out of the truck and calls in. I mean, that's a visual.
Yeah.
You know? Uh, The truck on the back of a tow truck,
Yep.
you don't have to be a mechanic to
You
know
should have
it's
taken,
broken.
you should have taken a picture of that.
Yeah, see, I didn't see it. My daughter did.
Oh, you did, okay. That would have been nice to have had that picture.
Yeah. I'm sure she
Some good
knows what
things
she's
with that
talking
picture.
about. All right.
Well.
So
anyway,
the contract is being reviewed. We'll see what happens when it gets kicked back to us. Was there any other actions required with that letter? Were we looking for more than just, the truck to, I'm trying to remember the letter. I know
No,
I reviewed it.
well, again, we were just kind of pointing out things that had been seeing in the last 2-3 months. So it was just referencing certain problems we were having with communication.
Right.
Troubles with the fleet. You know, we did compliment them on a couple of personal situations, having great relationships with Phil
Mhm.
and with Mike.
Yeah.
So, and then the last thing was we pointed out that for whatever reason, we haven't seen a contract since first talking about it 12 months ago, which was miraculously,
So that was the response we were looking for,
so. pretty
along
much.
with, and that's
Yeah.
what we got.
So
Okay.
that was good. Other than that, wasn't anything, nothing was really expected. This
No,
was,
it's more of
yeah.
like a benchmark too, as far as the things that have been going
Yeah,
on that
exactly.
you're experiencing,
Yeah.
just so that if it does continue, we've already established the benchmark.
right.
Okay. All right. Next item. Finance Committee meeting update. Excuse me.
I do want to point out that I did send Jody Kersey an email this morning inviting her to tonight's meeting. I have no response.
Okay.
It's a busy woman.
Yeah, no, that's fine. It was very favorable. They understood what we were saying and they supported what we were saying. However, it was the first time that I was made aware. I don't know if my team members were aware. Somewhere along the line when some financial consultants were hired, it seems as though the Finance Committee doesn't have some of the authorities and powers that they had at one
I
point.
was astounded, actually.
Okay, I was very surprised to hear that. They almost got the impression that they're more of an advisory finance committee now. Not that they weren't advising before, but,
Well, the finance committee historically is an advisory committee. The really truly the powers, I mean, the finance committee's, charged with reviewing the budgets and making recommendations on warrant articles for town meeting. But the Board of Selectmen really can in fact hire a finance company, to make decisions, to make recommendations in addition to the advisories that the FinCom provides to the board too.
yeah, I remember that, and I brought this up at the Finance Committee meeting. There was a situation where we ran short on maybe engineering money. And we had money within our Board of Health budget. So we wanted to just move it from one item to another. And Finance Committee didn't want it done that way. They wanted us to take it from another pocket that was outside of the Board of Health. So I assumed, at least at that time, and actually the chair of the select board was the chair of the Finance Committee at the time, that they had the authority to tell us that's how it was gonna be done, and we said, okay.
Mhm.
You know, if that's how it should be handled, you guys are the money guys, that's, how we were gonna handle it. So, like I said, I guess I really wasn't aware of the transition of authorities that may have taken place over the last 2 or 3 years, and Joyce, you're saying the same thing.
Right, yeah. I mean, I was astounded that they,
More for checks and
you know,
balances.
yeah.
Could be. I mean, there's quite a few of them, so I mean, to have.
I mean, there's a handbook that all FinCom members are given, it's just in Massachusetts general laws and what's allowed and what's permitted. And, this company maybe has a little bit more experience and maybe can do a deeper dive than the
Right.
finance committee members themselves.
Well, now we have a tax collector who is also, she has the title of finance director, I believe.
Mhm.
Which before it was just a tax collector. And then we have an accountant that used to be in-house who's now essentially a subcontractor.
Yep.
So maybe, things got divided up differently and I just wasn't paying attention.
Was he actually an actual employee at one point? I thought he was.
Not that I
always-
know of.
What's that when you said in-house? So. You said mentioned in-house versus a contractor.
Well, I'm going back to the days where we had, can't I think of her first name?
Oh, referring to different personnel
Yeah.
altogether. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we did have our own.
At one time.
Claudia
Gotcha.
Cataldo.
Yes.
She was our in-house
Gotcha.
accountant.
Everything,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
you did a great job.
She worked with the tax collector.
Yeah.
They,
Yeah.
Yeah,
we don't have
finance
someone
team.
in that
Yeah.
particular in-house seat anymore.
Right, yeah.
For one reason or another.
Cause
So,
we were involved with the person that wanted everything to be out of the town.
who knows what the next chapter looks like, right? So. The next step was they pretty much, advised us to, maybe work with the different municipal departments that are gonna be affected. By this proposal.
Mhm.
To, build in some efficiencies and calculate what their portion may be. So that they're not blindsided by it, so that they can plan for it. And then, put all that information together and go before the select board. uh, Probably the finance director.
Mhm.
And the accountant. I'm almost thinking we might want to go to the accountant first, invite the accountant to come to our meeting after we've collected all that information. Only because we're not money people. We do it at home, but we're not money people as far as the
Right.
municipality is concerned. So maybe having a conversation with the town accountant. It'll help us use the right language and the right order.
Mhm.
When we do make a presentation to the select board. And in the meantime, Jack and I had a brief conversation, maybe what we could do to, go through that process with the departments is maybe every meeting invite 2 department heads. Whatever 2 department heads are available, to our meeting. Obviously, we need to have our things prepared, but have a discussion.
Mhm.
How often is your dumpster getting picked up? Is your dumpster full when it gets picked up? These are the formulas that we use to come up with the number, what the cost of that dumpster is. How does that align with your business? Make them part of the process to figure out, we can get by with a smaller dumpster and we probably only need it empty twice a month.
Maybe we could prepare like a questionnaire for them and send it to them first and then we'll have them answer that. So
Yeah,
that
so
then
it
when
was
they
save
come to
time
the
Okay.
meeting,
with chat,
then we
Yeah.
then we can all discuss it.
And again,
Right.
Tom had brought to my attention the highway department. So I mentioned the highway department, in all fairness, so to speak, they're going around picking up trash on the side of the road. It's
Yeah.
not necessarily trash that they generate from within
Mhm.
the highway department.
Yeah.
Um, However, the trash they pick up and the trash they generate should be covered with taxpayer dollars, not subscriber dollars. But again, you know, if we have a discussion with these department heads, and I like your idea about kind of a sheet.
Yeah, just a
checklist,
little questionnaire, just so, you know,
so
then
they
we'll
know
have
the
the,
direction we're going in.
right,
And that way they can be thinking about it, even if they haven't
Exactly.
filled it out. Gee, has there ever been a time our dumpsters overflow? No. And I mean, you know, we don't know 100% for sure how often those dumpsters are empty.
Hmm.
We know it's gotta be an additional truck because Phil's truck can't lift those dumpsters. The only thing that Phil does is pick up here, right? And it's all toters.
Yes.
maybe,
And I want to say the library as well. They have toters. They
Okay,
don't have a dumpster.
okay.
maybe too, what we could think about is replacing the highway dumpster, you know, if it warrants with the smaller dumpster and then having another dumpster. So when the highway department does pick up garbage around town, they put it in that particular dumpster, then we'd be able to keep track of the tonnage and whatnot, and that gets billed to the town. As opposed to it all being commingled in with the highway.
I'm hoping on the accounting side, and I did bring this up last night, that we don't actually have to issue bills, that the accountant can make the proper transfers either quarterly, semi-annually, or once a year, based on the formula that they can just,
Yeah, you put it in the operating
yeah, they can
budget.
just do their
So-
magic on paper.
Right,
You know, and it just needs to be, the money to cover that needs to be allocated somewhere with
yeah,
taxpayer.
they do it like in the operating budgets, like, the town accountant charges, and, you know, various municipal departments for their services for, you know, for processing their warrant, their vouchers and things like that. And so, you know, whether it's, you know, a flat charge or if it's a percentage, but municipal departments get charged that, and it could be the same thing for the dumpsters.
All right, so I guess the first thing to do is try to come up with an outline for that questionnaire.
Yep. We can work on that.
Can I be a voice of opposition?
Absolutely.
I believe we should be communicating with the people at the top first, not the departments.
Okay,
I believe we should be going to the select board, which would also include Jody, the finance director,
okay,
because the select board is also going to include the town administrator as part of that discussion to lay out our plan. So that from the top down, to get their perspective on what our plan is. And then, in case they have any issues or concerns, then,
Let
Yeah.
them figure it out.
well, no, but then we could, but that's not a bad idea. Then to communicate with the departments.
well, okay,
Wouldn't want to do all
But
that
at the same
groundwork.
time,
Mhm.
I mean, to generate the questionnaire, I think is a good idea. I mean, do them, you know, in conjunction with each other so that then after we've done with them, hopefully it'll only be like bing, bam, boom. And then we can start getting even 3 heads in here. you
Yeah,
know.
we could still be doing some backroom homework.
right. Well, I can see
Activity.
the advantage to going your route. Because if this were, I mean, not that it's secret, but if someone were to take again what we're trying to do, how we're trying to make things right, the wrong way, and they go to the
Mhm.
town administrator is gonna have an answer for them. Well, you know, the Board of Health came to us, they explained what they were trying to do. They explained the plan of action, and yeah,
Plus, we can also
sit
get,
down with them and be part of the conversation.
plus we can get from the top, particularly Jody, who has the most direct financial day-to-day experience, just exactly what would be the options they would want to exercise for making this happen. Like, for a couple of things were mentioned. The concept of just sending a bill for the department came up. That's not a bad idea, right? Then the thought of, do they just create an account within the town hall that just represents X amount of dollars for funding anyone's trash. Type of thing. So if we estimate $15,000-$20,000 annually, they create a fund, an account for that purpose to pay for the trash costs of each of the departments.
Okay, so,
So that's all I'm just thinking that
no, no,
maybe,
I'm fine with that. I was trying to follow along with the recommendations from the finance committee. But again, I can see the advantage to going to the select board first and then circling back.
well, they actually did also mention going to the select board as well.
Right.
It's
Oh, they
actually-
did.
They did.
They did.
Yeah, they did do
They
that.
did. They said
Yeah.
to go. to
But
them
I
first.
thought that we had to bring more information to them. And the only way to get that information was to first work with the departments.
Well, that would be one way of going.
But-
I just think presenting the overall plan.
I think they said go to the select.
Yeah, to let
Okay.
them know and then we can go from there to the individual departments.
Because that might just give us a better foundation on doing the nitty gritty work.
Mhm.
Instead of unnecessarily spinning wheels.
Well,
Thinking that.
And,
this is what's
and again,
gonna
I can
happen.
see the advantage in case a department takes it the wrong way.
Right, just so that they're aware, like you said, it's not a secret, so they are
Right.
they are the board of selectmen and that's probably where, you're right, where we should start.
I don't see how any department could take it the wrong way.
Well,
It's-
it's happened
It's,
in the
it's,
past.
it's pretty,
Well, you
well,
know what?
No, I
You just
realize
they
have to-
it
didn't,
was-
they didn't take it, I don't believe they took it the wrong way. What caught them by surprise is that we
2 weeks
presented
before
this
budgets
in
were
the
due.
11th hour,
Right,
right when they already had their budgets already set to be submitted. And this came out, granted, it came out, it wasn't intended to go public.
right. It
but
was just
got
a
out.
discussion.
Yeah,
So they were just concerned, I think the timing is what, oh, now I have to account for this on my budget? I already did my budget.
Mm.
Where am I gonna come up with this extra,
Right.
you know?
Right.
So I think if you were to talk to them now, they'd understand the
Right, 'cause
fairness,
now they know what's going on.
part of it,
Right.
right? And there's no time pressure, so it can be factored in, whether it gets factored into their individual budgets or whether the town finance people think they want to make a one large account to cover all the departments for that's,
And it really isn't that large because we've got it estimated at about 20,000.
15 to 20.
Yeah, so it's not a big number.
It's
It's
not.
just a matter of getting that
Who's
paid
who?
for with the
Who's
right
who's in
money.
this- Yeah.
So do we need to do some groundwork first, or do we need to get on the agenda for the select?
I think we
board?
need to get on the agenda.
Yeah,
I'm kind of hoping we do some groundwork first and I present it to the board to say, yes, this is the information that we present to the select board.
This is what we're
I'd rather
doing.
we cross our Ts and dot our Is before we go to the select board, so.
so just out of curiosity, so what additional groundwork? Because I thought you did a very good job with that presentation we laid out last night for FinCom.
Everybody
Well-
was, I thought that everybody was wicked impressed.
I wanna talk with Mike Sussman again, because that $11, I don't know if that's like the dumpster being in town. I don't think that includes the tipping of what's in the dumpster.
Okay, so you're thinking that just covers the dumpster rental
Correct.
versus the tipping,
Yes,
because the tipping we're paying for with our,
subscriber fees as well.
right,
Right.
but we're paying for that with our weekly bills or bi-weekly bills. Okay, good point. All right,
So it may be $20,000 now, but it could be $23,000.
Right. Yeah.
So I wanna make sure I'm,
Good point. Yeah.
well, while you're doing that, I would be curious to know how often the Parks Department dumpsters are being picked up. Is it, like in my mind, seasonal? Or is it 12 months a year? Because in my mind, and not having a discussion with Dan yet, I would think it would be seasonal when the parks are functioning. So you can ask that question as to if those dumpsters are being picked up 8 months, 9 months, 6 months. And then the other question would be, and I don't know if we could get an answer for that, is every time they're picking these dumpsters up, are they all being picked up weekly, bi-weekly? And are they full? So to our, point as to building inefficiencies, we are making the assumption, or I'm making the assumption that the dumpster down at the senior center is oversized. And I could be wrong.
Mhm.
So any information like that would be important to have. Anybody else have
They
anything?
locked the dumpsters?
I believe the says that they are locked.
Okay, they all should be, because otherwise, you have people backing up to them.
Yeah, I actually checked the ones out at the Parks Department and every door was locked except for one. There was one lock that probably got lost.
I don't think the highway department had been.
It is now,
It is now,
yes.
but that was just in the last month, right?
When John Dudley came on board, so I want to say,
A
Month and a half, 2
couple-
months.
Couple months.
yeah.
Because they've had issues with people just coming in
Absolutely.
to the highway department while all the crews are out on the road
Yep.
and then doing things they shouldn't be doing.
They have
Right, you
cameras.
brought that up at Hazardous Waste.
They are getting cameras up there.
Yeah, because they just make sure the dumpster, and like on the packs too, if they have cameras, that's how, we had experienced that and put cameras up and actually got the license plates and sent them a lovely letter with the fine.
Thank you for not doing this anymore.
Is that
Um,
camera system active now? Do you know?
That I do not know. I want to say it's active inside the building, but it's supposed to be available on their phone.
I got it, yeah.
2 weeks enough time to do that?
God, I hope so.
Okay. No, I'm just, I mean,
I'm gonna try.
this isn't the only thing you have to work
No, I know.
on, so. All right, so we'll have a meeting in 2 weeks and we'll discuss the findings and any other concerns we have with the hopes of making the decision at that point to maybe get on the next Board of Selectmen's meeting. Or the
What's
one,
what's the date of the STM? You know offhand? November 11th?
Something like that.
Yeah. Just trying to think. So I mean, we only meet twice in a month.
and they meet opposite us.
Oh, they're always opposite?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay,
Well, unless there's a 5-week month.
right.
So they're opposite us. So they're gonna meet next Wednesday. We're not gonna be ready for next Wednesday.
Right.
We might be ready for 2 weeks after that.
So would we want to put out the communication now to them? Something general. That this is what we would like to come before you about. Not giving too many specifics, but just the general, which we'd like to include Jody in that, which would should give enough time in advance for people to make their schedule, to make the meeting. Right? And then ask for a date that we know when we'll be ready. So if we're gonna meet in 2 weeks to go over this, do you think it's fair to say that we might be prepared to go to their select board meeting the Wednesday after us,
I would hope so.
right?
Right. I mean, I feel bad that
So,
that's really realistically the soonest.
right, so if we set the communication in motion now,
I don't think so.
right, to do that,
I think it's on.
ask for that particular
Why not?
agenda. A month from now, right? Saying that, we can explain why.
Isn't a special town meeting usually on a Friday?
Is it a Friday? That's what we were just.
I didn't know if they switched.
The
it to a
11th is
Monday.
a Saturday.
November
so
11th is a Saturday,
So maybe it's the 10th,
the 10th.
That's a
11th,
Friday.
So
Friday.
Yes,
would it be
I
on
wasn't
the
sure.
BOH website?
I would
No,
think
it
so.
shouldn't be.
Because
The reason I brought
Everybody
that up is I
complains.
was trying to think if it would be
Not
gearing,
bad.
because they're gonna be gearing up to do things for
Oh,
STM,
absolutely.
which could be a priority for them.
right, but as you mentioned, we're going to them just to
Monday,
let them know
November 6th.
what would,
What is it?
November 6th.
Monday, November 6th.
That's the STM.
Yes.
So we
So-
might want to meet with them after that because they'll be busy. This is,
That's
gonna-
what I was.
right, they'll be busy doing. Hmm?
no, I'm being,
Facetious.
Yeah, there'll be a bunch of warrants. They'll be going.
Right,
through.
they have a
Yeah.
lot to review and everything.
well,
so-
they're gonna tell us that.
Right,
So
yeah, I would imagine they'll be busy and the finance director is gonna be very busy.
So where's that
preparing
put
for
us?
Well, ours would be 2 days after the annual town meeting,
Yeah, so we
a
could,
special town meeting.
So it'd be
So it could be the
15th.
15th or the 29th.
I'd like to do it the 15th. I don't want to, I mean, the 15th is a month away,
yep,
Yeah, exactly.
so that gives us plenty of time. And good thing you mentioned the special town meeting, because that gives us an opportunity to avoid that. I mean, there's just not enough time before it.
right.
Right. Unless you'd want to double up the week of the 8th. Because I'm assuming they would have their meeting would be on the 8th. No, actually, their meeting would be on the 1st.
Right, and then the town,
For
and
the
then the special is on the 6th.
And then they would be meeting until the 15th.
Right. So
Right. Yeah,
unfortunately, it looks like the 15th
Okay.
would be the soonest.
all right. Well, that's plenty of time. I think do what we want to do,
Yeah.
Oh, more than enough.
right? Time for them to think about what we're coming to them with. And time to have everyone at the table that we want at the table, which would not only be the select board,
Oh, might even be the town accountant.
well, which is possible by Zoom,
Yeah,
right?
Mhm.
The town administrator, Eric by Zoom, and Jody, either Zoom or here. So now you got the key players
Mhm.
from the money perspective.
I'm in. Has anybody seen a draft of the warrant?
Not, yeah, I think it was due, you had to get your requests in by today at 4 o'clock. So I imagine
I
next
was
week,
just curious as to how long it was.
yeah, but I imagine next week sometime.
Yeah.
I think we generally all get an email, right?
I'm going to be away.
I didn't approve that.
My friend died and
Oh, there you go.
going to Florida for the services.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that.
What happened?
Oh, well, it's a long story, but sad story, long, sad story. But died, friend of mine.
Oh, a friend. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, sorry.
What are you golfing friends?
No, one of my friends was a Mendon person, then went to Vermont. And we've traveled all over the world with them.
Oh, jeez.
Their
Wow.
kids and our kids are the same age and everything is, it's just sad. A tragedy, actually.
Yeah.
All right. I think we've exhausted that one. Yep. Board of Health minutes to review. I reviewed them and I didn't see any issues. Tom, Joyce,
Yep, I did. I looked at them. I didn't see anything.
a lot of reading.
I'm trying to catch up.
I appreciate
That
it.
was good, though. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, you do a heck of a job.
He only had one.
I
question.
looked
right.
I looked at it first without really looking at the dates and I said, rooster noise.
Not again.
I was like, what?
I actually had someone give me a metal rooster about yay big and I was almost thinking of bringing them.
Well, I have a lot of chicken stuff because my studio is the chicken coop. And people bring me all kinds of chicken stuff. Wouldn't believe. And my
All right, so-
husband says the old hens is still.
Nice. And he gets away with it because he's an old rooster, right?
'Cause he thinks he's funny.
I get his sense of humor. I understand where he's coming from.
Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you. Just one question on the March 8th minutes. I
March
just
8th.
wasn't sure of a certain phrasing on the 6th item. Since Joyce was not on the BOH in July, there will be 2 TO motions for the meeting.
So TWO should have been 2 motions. Because one,
TW.
yeah,
okay, I wasn't
TW,
quite
so
sure.
that should
2
be-
motions. Thank you.
because one she wasn't there for, so that she abstained, but the
Got
second
it.
one she was there for, so she was able to vote.
2 motions. Got it. Okay. for sure.
Good catch, Tom. I mean, that's like that big.
I don't want him to feel that we
That's
don't
what
need that.
No, really, that,
You know what
I'm
saying?
impressed.
That would be, you know,
He's putting.
you tell all his work that he,
I do not have that focus.
I still don't find.
but I
it.
will say,
We'll see if it's about money, I do.
but I will say this
Off
format.
food.
Where is it? It's on which page?
This is on the March 8th,
March
minutes,
8th, sixth item.
page 2,
Oh, okay.
the 6th item.
Oh, yeah,
All the way over there.
yep.
I was an English major, you know.
Yeah, hey,
I
get a lot of value in
You
your
like that?
education.
format, and he's got the emblem,
Oh, I
Yeah.
know.
No, it's
Background.
impressive.
you know.
I'm trying to spruce up things as I go along.
Yeah, I do. And then the only other general question I'll throw out there is, should we, as a practice, be including names of attendees?
I talked to Ellen, she says, no, you don't have to include any
Okay.
attendees.
Just board
Yeah.
only.
Yes.
Look at that. He already did this, the homework.
Did the homework.
Well, when I
Listen,
first
they-
started,
Because
Well, if you remember-
Missy used to do that. If you recall, on the meeting minutes,
Yeah,
she
you're
would
right.
list everyone who was in attendance. That was back when we meeting. And everyone who was there, she lists everybody, including people that were coming
You're
in
right.
for things. I just wondered but if Ellen's fine with just this.
Yeah, you should just include the people that speak, you know, that you're actually recording what they're.
Oh, yeah, see that? We didn't have that technology available,
Right,
right?
right.
Along with the people being able to dial in,
Right.
Mhm.
so that there's been a rapid changes in
Oh, yeah.
how this all works.
Oh, yeah.
So, but that's a good point. You're right. I can recall that.
And very soon, we're gonna have another name on this list.
My name.
Absolutely.
In big letters, all capitals.
And we're in the process of giving you credit on our website.
already done.
Already done.
Yes.
Look at that.
I noticed, I said to Jack, I noticed that you weren't listed yet as part of our staff. And so he reached out to Dan and boom, Dan.
When she first got hired, I tried to do it. She was in the website, but she wasn't showing up on screen. So I said, Dan, I don't know what I'm doing wrong.
Ah.
He goes, there's things that are broken on the back end. He goes, there's a lot of cleaning up that still has to be done.
Okay.
He goes, I just went in there, it took me 2 seconds because you already did it, and he fixed whatever was broken. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't care as long as it's done.
Use the network.
Yeah,
Well, I think it's great that you take the time to come.
oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
You have
This is
a lot
how we
to
stay
offer.
informed.
So, I mean, I think we've been doing a lot of good things.
Yeah.
We're getting better at it.
Yeah.
We're a team.
Oh,
right.
that's the only way to be,
Are you ready
as
for
far as I'm
full-time?
concerned. The what?
Are you ready for full-time?
No.
She is working full time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just for us.
Yeah, it's just like kind of just whatever. Whatever has to get done, gets done.
Well, are you feeling, just out of curiosity, you feeling like you're taking on any more than,
Just know I do.
okay. Just remember that.
So can I make a motion to adjourn?
No,
We have one more item.
We
Yeah.
do.
and I'm still looking for a motion on the minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry. We
That's
have a motion.
That's why
to
you can't.
approve The
All right,
minutes
I'll make this
as
motion.
listed.
I motion that we approve the meeting minutes as listed.
And I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Anything not anticipated in 48 hours?
I forgot to put health agents update, so I want to give that to Colleen.
Please.
Oh, yes.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah, good.
So I spoke with, the property owner at 10 Northbridge Street about his, septic system on Monday. He called me and let me know that since, and I also spoke with John Gibson too. And he said, you know, since they went up there and John cleaned out the lines and whatnot, that the system really, is only halfway filled. And it really doesn't need to be pumped. So, and I mentioned that to John and John said, go take a look, you know, so I did go take a look and it's dry as a bone. the whole yard is dry as a bone, lifted the lid, it is only half, it's only
And how long
halfway,
has it been since it was pumped?
30 days. He was due.
All the rain we've had?
Yeah, it was honestly, it was dry as a bone. So, he wasn't home when I went up there and I told him that I would be discussing it with the board tonight. And honestly, if it's only halfway full, there's really
That's really it. That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
do
to
that,
have them
yeah.
pump it. And there was, I mean, it's completely dry all around it. So I'm gonna continue to monitor it. You
Right.
know, and I told him that, and he's fine. He knows that he needs to replace the system. He knows that this, you know, that is not gonna, you know,
Right.
exactly, that he has to replace the system and he's working towards it. He's just had some financial difficulties.
Do we know if he's given the engineer that?
He
initial-
has not. He has not. He said he's working on that. I mean, technically, he does have 2 years. We did put it in our letter. However, if I, you know, it's just my opinion, if we see that the system, you know, that there's breakout again, and there continues to be breakout issues, then he's gonna have to accelerate his process, his repair process. That's just my personal opinion.
And it seems to me that he would be pretty stupid to have to be pumping $350.
God bless you. Very
Okay.
expensive.
Yeah.
Very
a month.
expensive. So, I just thought that I'd report that to the board. We are monitoring it. Jack and I are aware of it. North Avenue is a house of a different color. There is pooling there. Contacted Mr. Audie. He did owe us a pump today. I called up John, asked John if he had contacted him. He said, no, he hadn't. So we left a message for Mr. Audie today. Told him that we're looking for the pump. Went up there. I took pictures. There is, you know, pooling there. So he's gonna have to address it.
Yeah, that was a major failure.
Yeah. It's better, much better than it was. I mean, he did add loom there, so there's not that
Yeah.
caving in look to it. He did put the fence around it. And
Is he
he's,
renting that to someone or is he living there?
no, he's renting
Renting
it.
it, I would assume that they would be.
I want to say he has family living in there.
It's, yeah, it's his grandson.
Okay.
Yep.
Also, they would.
I'm gonna ask a question which I may already know the answer, but I can't recall it. Have they contacted an engineer?
No, not yet. Well, he did speak with Betty, right, at Land Planning,
No, that was,
10?
which one are we on?
North Ave.
Seven's Naughty?
Yes,
I gave him the 3 engineers. I don't know if he's made contact. The other address made contact with
Right.
Betty.
I'm almost positive that Mr. Audie contacted him. And I'm pretty sure that him and I had that conversation one time. He was hoping to sell it to his grandson. But I don't know what what that situation is, but I told him so long as he's the property owner, it's his responsibility.
I do want to double check the property records because I do want to say that is on the September's transfer file that I received from the assessor.
Really?
I want to double check.
Yeah. Yeah, let's look him on.
Well, personally, I'd like to see both of them start the design process. Only because,
Winter.
right, now North Bridge Road is only half full and it's dry all around it. That's great. But winter's coming
Mm-hmm.
and there could be some seasonal implications that it might not look as good as it looked today. So if, at least if the design process, because it's already been deemed by our engineer as a failed
Mm-hmm.
system. So I don't. He's really gotta find a way to get that process started. Now we go to North Ave. North Ave isn't looking pretty.
No.
They really need to have a design going. Because the time it takes to do the design, the weather, getting it repaired, high groundwater, they don't have a lot going in their favor. So I think I would feel more comfortable if both of them really
Sure,
had
right.
engineers,
Okay,
especially North Ave, starting the design process, because we know it doesn't happen in a week.
mm-hmm.
regardless of whether North Ave's gonna be sold or not, can't do much with a failed cesspool
Mhm,
on the sidewalk,
mhm.
you know?
I can contact both
I
of
mean,
them tomorrow.
unfortunately, their back's up against the wall.
Yep,
I mean, it's October.
However, they must have known about it.
Oh, I'm not saying they didn't,
Right,
but
right, I'm
you
just
know,
saying.
if it
You know, I
gets
mean,
much
you-
worse, they're gonna
right.
have to move out.
yep.
And then what do you do? So, like I said, I would personally, is my comfort zone. If I knew that the engineers were starting the design process, they had received that deposit that they need to get the paperwork and the measurements and the crew out there, at least we know,
It started.
yeah.
Okay. I'll contact both of them in the morning and let them know for sure.
Hit me.
You mentioned about property sale. So it's a question I have in general. I believe, according to Title V, when people buy properties, or properties transferred and they go through the traditional mortgage process to the banks, you have the Title V inspection involved. When people do cash purchases, that does not exist.
Mhm.
Nor does it have to exist as far as Title V is concerned.
No, it does have to exist.
On a cash,
Absolutely, right? Change of ownership, you gotta do a Title V. Doesn't
I-
matter whether it's a bank or cash. What helps you with a bank is the bank requires it. And the reason the bank requires it is because they don't wanna be putting money down on a piece of property that has a failed septic system and get stuck with that expense.
Well, yeah, but
But-
cash,
for some reason I thought,
you can, it's not, so to answer your question is that it's still required. Alan is correct, however, it's circumvented.
Right,
With
and we
cash.
found that.
So that's why we rely upon the assessors conveyances and we see that, so then we'd go and we'd look to see, did we get a Title V on it? And if we didn't, then they get a lovely letter.
so you're going by the transfer sheets.
Correct.
you get
Yeah.
All the time.
Correct.
Yep,
So, okay, so we're tracking it that way.
Right, a bank requires it because they're protecting their interest.
Their interest.
right, they won't get it,
Which is helpful to us
right,
because
Right.
it gets done. Now, if the system is not gonna pass Title V, either the present owner can escrow money or repair the system.
Right.
Or if the money's put in escrow, I believe if the system is not failed, but doesn't meet Title V, that's when they have that 2-year window to upgrade the system.
mhm,
But if it's failed, it's failed. Someone has to take care of it.
Stricky tick.
So
Well,
like
when
that
you-
trailer that I've been talking with Jack about that's on Blackstone Street, that's owned by someone from Megan Coy. Very possibly that was a cash deal. And that's why we can't get a Title V on it.
Where is that? I'm,
Mark Gillette, right across from Lumna. Mrs. Lumna, she was originally she was a Barrows. Just before you hit the bad corner. Number
Going-
37.
oh, 37, okay.
So that goes to the second part of
And
that
it
question.
belonged to the Barrows,
No.
that house,
Well,
oh,
the house across the street was a Barrows house. It was all Barrows
yeah,
land on the left.
right,
On the right, there's a trailer that belonged to
Oh,
Mark
I-
Gillette Senior.
okay, I know.
It's
where
on
it
a
is.
foundation
Yeah.
and it's probably been there
know
since
what
the
you're talking
fifties or sixties.
Yeah, okay,
Small parcel of land,
Yeah.
big drop off in the back.
yeah,
mm,
The piece of property might be 5,000 square feet.
yeah,
It's small.
So that goes to the second part of the question then. So if the cash deals are still being tracked, the difference is that with the banks, they're forcing a Title V. With the cash deals, there's no forcing
mhm.
of the Title V. Unless it's a requirement by the local Board of Health.
I thought it was Mass law.
So, it's-
I thought
yeah,
it was CMR. or
it's
whatever.
just, yeah,
So what I'm basically asking is, should the local Board of Health have something in place that requires a Title V
I believe we do.
irrespective bank or cash deal, so that there is no ifs,
I-
ands, or buts?
I believe we do, because I remember Missy constantly chasing people.
Well, it's within the Title V. I mean, you can't circumvent the requirement. How, they do temporarily is by cash deals. And then we catch up with them, but still under Title V, if there's a conveyance that's not an exclusion, they still have to have a Title V inspection done. So,
Right, a lot of times, someone will pay cash, it's a flip.
Yeah.
All right, so they pay cash.
Yeah.
Well, when they go to actually sell that property, a Title V has to be done. So they might circumvent the rule for 6 months or 9 months or a year while they're doing everything. But they can't circumvent it forever because they're gonna sell the property.
Do we want to shrink that?
Well, we've tried. I mean, not maybe with a official law, but I mean, I remember Missy constantly chasing, someone in particular that buys a lot of property in Mendon for cash. And it wasn't because the person was trying not to do the Title Fives, it's just that there were so many transactions going on
right.
that his engineers got to it when they got to it. But that could be time, especially if it was a piece of property that was being subdivided.
Well, I guess what I'm asking is there something that the local Board of Health could put in place that does not exist now with specific wording and specific requirement with regard to the receipt or validation that a Title V is being implemented on a property within a certain amount of time?
You can, but, you're still gonna be chasing them, especially on a cash deal. Unless you put some kind of a fine in place for failure to do it.
How do we see if we have something like that already? Where
We
would it
can,
be?
we can poll other communities and see.
Well, I'm just wondering if that's like a Tom Ryder question.
mm,
I mean, I know the local Board of
Yeah.
Health can be more stricter than the state.
Right.
We just can't be any less strict.
Right,
And to be honest with you, I don't know if there is something that we're not using that we already have in our toolbox.
I
But
just
I don't
didn't
know
think,
where,
I just didn't think we had specifically in place a regulation or a guideline.
I don't think we do. I think we were relying on,
Title V and it's
Title by itself.
right.
however, I'm not 100% sure.
Right.
Well, where's the code book?
Board of Health doesn't have a code book.
No, for the town.
Oh,
Oh, the bylaws?
Yeah.
They'd be on the website.
Yeah, we can.
What happens is
we
if,
have a code
if,
book
Board of Health?
up on the shelf. Should
No,
be.
the Mendon, Town of Mendon Board of Health, not the Mass handbook,
Oh,
Yeah.
like our own regulations in
oh,
town.
a specific book from
Yeah.
us.
Ask Missy. Next week. Bring her up. See if she's aware of anything we have anywhere in that office that might be some kind of a amended.
Summarized.
I bet you she was just doing Title V, because most
Probably.
towns just
But I
adopted
remember
Title
her
V and it's
Constantly
entirety.
chasing, and it was
Yep.
very frustrating for her.
What comes to mind as a good example would be, remember a little while back when we actually mandated that, I think when it came to a tank replacement, we specifically
Well,
mandated
department.
2 compartment with a certain size tank had to be put in.
Mhm.
I don't think that's, I don't know if you were aware of that.
Yes, I was aware of that.
Is that anywhere? Have you come across that in?
That was, when I first started working on the forms with BOH in May, when I first got hired.
Yeah.
That's where I recognized that was
So
part
it's on a
of the,
form,
yeah.
So it's on a form.
Yeah.
right?
But-
I have no problem with that. I, that may help us.
Yep.
It's it may cut the ones we're chasing down.
Yeah,
But I
just,
I don't know, we've been working, Jack and I have been talking about this trailer on Blackstone Street for a long time now. Because we had complaints from across the street about trash. And then there's a garage right next to it that is a separate piece of property that they stripped like the front half of the roof onto a top. Like almost on Blackstone Street. and just left it there.
Hmm.
So we had received some complaints from neighbors across the street, and we were following up on that. We managed to get the top full of shingles cleaned up after it had been there for 2 or 3 years. We managed at the trailer, we managed to get the two toters cleaned up, and they were now up against the trailer instead of at the street. But we've got nowhere so far with trying to get a Title V, and that property, you're gonna look back, it's gotta be a couple of years now that property
So,
transferred. And the owner is right around the corner on Making Court. I mean, outside of knocking on their door saying, hey,
Well, you know,
which might be the next step.
food for thought, you know, I just, you know,
I wouldn't rule it out if, you know. And a fine may help us have
I'll look in Title V.
a little bit of teeth
See.
in it.
Yeah, there are fines in there. Let's see if there's anything that can stick.
I suppose we can't do anything to attach any kind of liens to the property, could we?
Well, we can ask that question.
but one of the things,
Why not?
has anybody, sent him an original notice though?
I had, yes.
Did, okay. Because it would seem if that wasn't done first, then,
Maybe that
But I
would be,
don't believe it was certified though.
maybe that would be a question for Gene Berthold about a lien.
Liens really historically is something that's done by, judgment court,
I know,
unless you do a deed restriction, but deed restrictions in this case, it wouldn't come into play. A deed restriction on us, like with the septic system, you could do that.
but I know at one point, conservation had the power to lien a property. If you were developing a property in Mendon
Mhm.
and they had put orders of conditions
Yes,
on the construction,
yes,
those orders of conditions, to my understanding, were automatic lien.
right, they
On the
are
property.
recorded at the,
Okay,
at the
to your-
registry.
To your point.
Okay,
So maybe it's more doable than we think.
We can look into
I
it.
don't know if conservation still does that or if.
Oh,
it's
yeah, when they
effective.
issue order of conditions, then they get recorded at the registry of deeds, and then what follows, once they comply with that order of conditions, is a certificate of compliance is
Right.
issued by the Concom. And that's kind of like your mortgage and then a discharge, so the COC discharges the order of conditions.
Okay, so that's still their practice.
Yes,
Okay.
oh, yes.
So maybe there is a procedure that we could follow. But I thought Gene Berthold is knowledgeable about liens.
Oh, I'm sure
Because I
she
know
is.
she's mentioned in the past, like for people that don't pay their trash bill. If we wanted to go the route of leaning the property.
all right.
The problem with that discussion was that when the person comes in and pays their property taxes, the lien would get satisfied and the property taxes would come up short. So now it looks like they didn't pay their property taxes in full. And that could be,
Well, you can also do through the non-criminal citation process. So, when you issue the fines and then, there's a hearing at, Uxbridge District Court, the town prevails, that's a judgment, and then the lien follows on the property. But you start with the non-criminal citation process.
Okay.
So we could start with fining. So if if the board does decide to, we want to adopt our own regulation with regards to whether it's a cash sale or not, if you don't provide a Title V at the time of conveyance, then, we're going to fine you. We can use the non-criminal citation process, fine them. That gathers interest until it's paid. Board of Health, we utilize those a lot.
good point.
You know,
now, has anybody gone eyeball to eyeball with this guy and handed him the citation? And he hasn't answered we sent it a registered,
I think regular mail, not certified, I don't believe.
oh, okay,
maybe we should send
I'm
it.
gonna double check the property folder to see what I
Yeah,
did.
maybe we should send it certified to start to get a benchmark there.
Yeah,
Maybe that might get his attention and,
right.
you know,
Say,
and then we can go from there with them.
all right.
If not, I mean, did the town adopt the non-criminal citation process, 21D?
Yes.
Yep, so you could, you know, we could look into that. We'll look into Title V to see if there's something already in there. Then you could use it for finding them
Okay, so pull
non-compliance.
the folder, see where we're at. If we haven't gone the certified route yet, go the certified route.
Actually, you can't use the non-criminal for a Title V. You can only use non-criminals for local regulations, to enforce local regulations. So we'd have to go back to Title V, like state sanitary code violations. You cannot use non-criminal to enforce the compliance of the state sanitary code violation, because the state sanitary code violation has its own fine process within the regulation. So it would be the same thing with Title V. So we'll go back, we'll look at Title V.
Well, something to work on in the future.
Yep.
You know, I mean, something to maybe expedite. We're always trying to expedite.
Well, just trying to tighten up
Yeah,
Yeah.
Holes.
some things, you know.
right.
Well, that's what we've been working on with the forms and
Right.
the regulations. I mean, when, you know, the forms for next year are gonna be a lot tighter. We've included some things in the forms too.
When do our permit renewal forms go out?
Usually November.
Yeah,
Give them 2 months.
yeah, because if you send them out before that.
Early, yeah.
Oh, torture.
Yeah, you don't want them to get
Yeah,
lost.
then
but,
they, yeah, they put them in the desk and.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
I've been there. Oh, yeah, that's fine. I'll do that later.
yeah, I've got an insurance on it. Oh, it's not due till November.
Yeah. Hello, you know, you're putting,
I don't have to pull those.
yeah,
reports
the next thing you know, tomorrow you're putting the turkey in the oven.
Yeah.
You know, just so the board knows, Jody from the Tobacco Alliance is coming down on Tuesday, and we're gonna start our retail
Oh, good.
training.
Awesome.
And also I spoke with, police chief today, and I'm gonna go over, and introduce myself to him tomorrow. And, I talked to him about putting the kiosk for the Narcan in the, lobby of the police station, and he's all for it, so we're gonna figure that out. And I also talked to him about the, quarry checks, and he wants to look into a couple of things. So that may be a new process for us for the, mobile food units.
All right.
And we're gonna give him the, I talked to him about the, Horden chats that we have, and he's very interested in those.
The
And-
what is that?
The Horden, you know, like the different,
Index.
Levels of hoarding.
Oh,
Horden.
hoarding.
Yeah,
Oh,
Horden,
hoarding.
sorry.
Sorry.
I know.
Sorry.
That Boston accent.
Yeah, I know. That's what it is.
Remind me
It's all
when
right.
that Narcan training is?
The 24th. We're sending out tomorrow. We're sending out a, email blast tomorrow.
And now do the cruises carry Narcan?
Yes, and they're already trained, and so is the fire department. But the kiosk in the police station is, you know, for maybe a parent who suspects that maybe their child is, you know, experimenting, and, you know, they come down and they have one, and they're able to, you know, save their child.
Save a life.
So freaking scary, though.
You know, and it's just that one that we
Yeah.
save. That, you know, and we have, we're gonna be doing the, presentation with the fire department at the senior center for Fire Prevention Month. And so we're gonna be doing that in emergency preparedness. We have the bags, Jack and I will be filling the bags, and,
Trick or treat.
yeah. Well, the bags are nice because they're waterproof, number one, so you can put, you know, like your license in there, or, you know, your information that you have to have, and seal it, so, and on the
refrigerator,
outside of
that
it.
The refrigerated thing?
Right, and it has a chat on it, like of what you should have in your bag, and then we're gonna fill the bag with like some water bottles, can of soup, we got little flashlights, little notepads, those little first aid kits, you know,
Right, yeah.
the zipper ones that they can clip on, some hand sanitizer. What else have we put in there?
All sorts of goodies.
So
Great, that's
we
great.
got a lot of things moving, we're moving and shaking.
I love it.
Very good.
The only other last thing I had was, just from a public awareness announcement perspective, there were some announcements that came through to the BOH that I thought I'd just take a couple of minutes, just kind of read for public information purposes.
Sounds good.
Folks probably already, they came in email forms to us, you know, we regularly get notifications. I just thought.
Yep.
Anyone who might be listening to this afterwards, you know, nobody's on tonight, but the first one is one that came from Department of Public Health, specifically the Executive Office of Health and Human Services, from Robert Goldstein, who's the commissioner. This was dated September 25th. Dear colleague, the U.S. is facing rising rates of hepatitis C infections, with tens of thousands of people newly infected every year. In Massachusetts, cases of hepatitis C are rising and not enough testing is being done, especially in primary care settings, which present opportunities to identify and treat cases. More than 95% of hepatitis C infections can be cured with simple, well-tolerated treatments. The Massachusetts Department of Public Health urges clinicians to increase testing and treatment for hepatitis C. There are a couple more pieces, but basically there were a couple of attachments to this, but if folks out there who are listening want to know more, they can go to mass.gov /HEPC, Hep C. That was one. The other one we had was from October 5th. This was from the Department of Public Health. This was entitled Department of Public Health Launches New Viral Respiratory Illness Dashboards. The Massachusetts Department of Public Health today launched several new weekly dashboards that track viral respiratory illness trends across the Commonwealth, focusing on COVID-19, influenza, and respiratory syncytial virus, which we know as RSV. Did I say that word right? I did. Hey,
I figured you've been practicing that with Gene.
I wasn't sure. I didn't know if it was syncytial or syncytial.
RSV works.
Exactly.
RSV, hey, you know, RSV. The viral respiratory illness dashboards will streamline the previous weekly flu records, which DPH has produced for many years during flu season, and the COVID-19 data updates, which DPH has provided daily and weekly since the early days of the pandemic in March 2020. COVID-19, flu, and RSV are the three viruses that are more likely to cause severe disease, resulting in hospitalization and sometimes death. So that was kind of the gist. It talks more about the dashboards, you know, what they're changing and adding. So again, all that information is up on mass.gov to DPH. And the last one, this is a pretty cool one. I don't know if you folks saw the recent emails that Regional Public Health has been sending the last week. Something brand new that actually just formally got announced today. This came from this is also from the Office of Local and Regional Health. Dear local public health colleague, for the first time, Massachusetts has defined performance standards and workforce training and credentials for local health departments, created in collaboration with local public health partners. The performance standards are part of a larger effort to strengthen local public health and increase health equity. These performance standards were actually formally announced this morning at a meeting of the Public Health Council. It was a Zoom call that took place this morning. The Massachusetts Department of Public Health is currently implementing recommendations from the Special Commission on Local and Regional Public Health's final report, which is referred to as the Blueprint for Public Health Excellence. This includes 6 interlocking recommendations for modernizing the local public health system in Massachusetts. These recommendations offer new ways to organize and support local public health, to raise standards and improve performance, strengthen efficiency and collaboration, better use technology, enhance skills, and sustain adequate resources. As a result of the blueprint, the OLRH, which is the Office of Local Regional Health, work with local public health to create the performance standards that set minimum expectations for local health departments around services and staffing. They partner with the Massachusetts Health Officers Association to assess local capacity to achieve the performance standards at health departments across the state. Results from the assessments have been compiled and analyzed and are available via the Capacity Assessment Statewide Summary Report. To note, that report was also released formally this morning on that same call. The last part is DPH is already using this data to identify and target resources and solutions. The department updated and developed new educational courses on public health topics and has created an online training portal so that local public health professionals can easily access required trainings. These improvements aim to ensure, for example, that all restaurant inspectors can easily access training on the sanitary code and food safety requirements, which you are probably already aware of. So that was kind of the gist. That was a pretty big announcement. that
Yeah, I
came.
definitely didn't read that one.
That's been in the making for quite a while. So this is considered phase one of what will be an ongoing plan to basically enhance the public health sector throughout the state of Massachusetts, with the idea being that hopefully at some point that no matter what town you're in the state of Massachusetts, the public health sector will be able to provide support and at the same level of service to everybody across the board. So more to come, but that was pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoyed when we took the food safety course.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's expired, but I enjoyed it. I think the problem is if you don't use it, forget some of the
Yeah.
details, you know,
Oh, yeah.
from, you know, a board
Right.
member standpoint,
Absolutely.
which is kind of a shame. But I'd be, especially if it's accessible online, I'd be interested in, you know, just having a broader knowledge,
Mhm.
even though I'm not gonna be able to retain it all. So that's awesome.
Could be future employment.
Mm.
They're really looking to scale up.
Work.
They're really looking to scale up public health,
Well, it's as they
state
should.
of Massachusetts.
mean-
Well, they learned during the pandemic that
Right.
we were not prepared.
That may have been a pretty good input. So.
Absolutely, and there will be
But
another.
who are all the volunteers? The locals?
All day, oh
Right.
yeah, you kidding?
Did they
Everybody,
do
all the
flu
local
shots
people
at the
stood up
senior
and
center already?
volunteered, you know.
We did 53 clinics. We vaccinated 92% of our senior population.
This month?
No, during the pandemic.
Oh, no. I'm talking about, there were the flu shots that are being.
Friday, there's a clinic, right?
Yeah.
And
That's senior center.
Now, are they doing the super senior
Yeah.
things?
They don't have the high dose?
Nope.
So that's not, I'm not interested.
It was explained to us that it's very expensive
It is.
to maintain that. And there was
Yep.
one other reason too, because Ann Labonte had asked that question and had responded from VNA saying that expense is one thing, but also because they tailor to the clinics that they hold are for a range of people age-wise. And a super shot, as it's nicknamed, is really only geared for the senior population.
65.
So it's so
That's why
specific.
they were doing it at the senior center. That's why I thought that they maybe.
This is like where too, if the board decided that it wanted to purchase some high dose on its own, where their reserve account would come in handy.
That may be a consideration
Absolutely.
for next year, because you're right, specifically, because we do one specific at the senior center.
Right.
It would be specific for that population. But see, anybody though, even though we're holding it at the senior center, anybody can come in, I believe.
Well, but you don't have to give them, you don't give them a senior. You could have things both,
No.
both there.
You're right. Yeah.
I'm gonna
So-
have a clinic. High dose.
You are, when,
I'm just waiting for a word that we received it. Signing up.
While you're involved with that, I'd be interested to know what it is so that we can plan,
I can tell you,
you know, I mean, that way there.
I'll check with Trish, cause see, like, we have a
We can plan for
pool.
next year if we have an idea what that cost is gonna be. I mean, it's very possible we could build it into our budget. Or maybe there's some grant money or something available that we could apply for now so that we'd be prepared for next flu season.
right?
you know, to partially subsidize it. or
That, yeah,
whatever.
and that's what I was saying about the benefits of the reserve. So if the board decides, you know what, we want to get some high dose for our seniors, you would have that ability to do that and wouldn't mind administering it, you know?
Right. Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
I
you could
did
do it.
400 vaccinations.
Yeah.
For the flu, so, for the, you know, the.
Yeah. Yeah, we have, we called in all our all our resident nurses. We have a wonderful, wonderful list of volunteers.
I enjoyed participating because you, that was the only thing I could do to help make things
That's
better.
right. And
So
so,
they
right.
gave me a laptop and they gave me a lesson and the person next to me would bail me out if I had a problem and I learned.
Well, that's how we formed this partnership, you know. This is the reason why, because we were all in the same pot of soup. You know what I mean? And we were working 90+ hours a week and we realized, you know what, we just don't have the staffing for it. So that's how we formed this partnership. And then Connor Robichaud stepped in and got all the funding for it. And that's how we ended up with, like, you know, Dan and Danielle and Deb and Jack
Yeah.
Sullivan, you know, and it's just benefited, you know,
Right,
8 towns.
Major component of that Zoom call talked about the shared services arrangements in
Absolutely.
the state. As being a key element to this process that they're talking about moving forward for a lot of communities. There's
Has to.
a lot of counties. They highlighted one in particular, Franklin County,
Yes.
which is a lot of communities with very small populations and very limited resources. So if you think we're limited, there's many others out there that
Yeah,
are
like
far less.
Berkshire County, they're in the same boat.
Yeah, so
But that's why we formed the partnership. It was survival.
right.
Honestly, it really truly was. And, you know, just like, you know, you'd have a day, you know, where you wanted to pull your hair out of your head. And it was nice that, you know, like you could call, you know, like with me, it was me and Jeannie Ganadnik, her and I would, you know,
Switch out.
yeah, we would go back and forth like, you know, with the screaming memes, you know? And it really has benefited.
Right.
Look at all the services that we are able to tap into now
Right.
because of our affiliation with the partnership.
Well, and to that point, if it came down to next year, being able to give the seniors the super dose, even if we did it with a group of towns, you know, I'd be open, you know,
It's the only,
to do
yeah,
it that way,
absolutely.
you know?
Just like with the vaccine bus. You know, we'll make it available to, you know, all of our towns, the link, Erin Hightower did it in Uxbridge. Made it available. The bus is coming to Blackstone. I'm gonna put in for the bus to come to Mendon.
That's for COVID.
Yep, for the booster. Yep,
So there's a lot of opportunity to work again.
yeah, cause
Member towns, but we, obviously, if we're gonna need grant money or we're gonna need to build it into our budget, we need to talk about it today like we are.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'd be very interested in what the, possible expense would be to pull that off, because Mendon does have a growing senior population.
absolutely. And that, you know, and they're the most vulnerable.
when I looked at the numbers based on how we do the senior trash discount program and looking at the number of households, it was pretty amazing how high that number was from a
Mhm.
senior perspective.
It's a good sized percentage.
It's a good sized percentage, you know?
We're oldies but goodies.
That's right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'll be there in a few years.
I'm there.
Are you?
Oh, yeah,
For you?
I'm there. I arrived.
Well, as far as the AARP is, I think you're there. I mean, as far as
Oh, yeah.
AARP is concerned,
Was it 50?
you're there at 50.
Yeah. And I was talking about 65.
Yeah.
Well,
What's in the number?
I got a few years to go.
65 is the new 30.
Oh,
Exactly.
that's
Great.
good. I like
Exactly.
my thirties.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
Anything
That-
else,
That's
folks?
what I
Nope.
say.
Next meeting date? Gonna be October 25th?
Yep.
7 o'clock. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. And then maybe after that, we can go to
6:30.
6:30 if people want
Up to
to.
you.
Motion,
Motion to adjourn.
second,
Second,
all in favor?
I.
Aye.
Thank Thank you.
Thank you all.
Ta-da. Is that